for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up first is the acceptance of a donation from ESS.
So I'll take care of that. So in the board packet is a request from the ESS director for accepting a $1,000 donation from the Friends of Upton Seniors to support the Upton Senior Center barbecue, which was held on August 15th.
Any questions or comments? I want to thank the Friends of the Upton Seniors. I heard it was a rousing success, and it was a great day, and the weather cooperated. So, do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, to accept donation to the town of Upton Department of Elder and Social Services of $1,000 from the Friends of Upton Seniors to support the Upton Senior Center barbecue, BBQ, which was held on August 15th.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Unanimous. Next is the execution of 99 Crockett Road sewer easement. Michael.
And do some inspection services. You have in your packets draft easement language for the execution of the easement for 99 Crockett, which is specific to the well water supply. So they'll be connecting to a well on the other side of Crockett Road. As you know, town meeting granted you the authority to use the select board the authority to execute on these agreements, so that when these properties need to do their improvements, they don't have to come to town meeting each and every time. I believe the last one you executed was 75, 105. 105. That was good. So, and that was for sewer and water. This one's just for water.
And the attached packet. Both sign is identical to the last one.
Yes, almost identical, except for that it's specific to well water, not sewer. The last one I think was water and sewer.
Okay. Second. Other questions, comments?
You did it.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move the select board vote to execute the 99 Crockett Road water supply easement as authorized by Article 18 of the November 12th, 2024 special town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Acceptance of 911 support and incentive grant and 911 training grant. What are you thinking of?
As the board may recall, when we had Chief Bradley with us as well, our police chiefs and police departments were very active in applying for additional funds to support their operations to defray the cost of the town. Through Chief Palmieri, happy to announce that the town has received in excess of $250,000 in grant funding from three sources: FY25 State 911 Support Incentive Grant, the State 911 Training Grant, and the State 911 EMD Grant, as well as 911 Development Grant. So, and included in your packet is emails from the police chief to fire director Kenny Costa and myself, letting us know of those awards.
Any other comments?
Congratulations for funding.
Exactly. That's right. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote to authorize the submission and acceptance of the FY26 State 911 Incentive Grant, FY26 State 911 Training Grant, FY26 State 911 EMD, and the 6 State 911 Development Grant.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Execution of Mechanic Street Conservation Restriction. Conservation Commission. Is someone here from Conservation? Hi, Mike. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. Well, we have before you the conservation restriction for the Mechanic Street, which was purchased by the town several years ago. The CR has been approved by the the state staff for signature. The Conservation Commission voted on it at our last meeting and signed it. You have any questions? I mean, it's, I think, very similar to a draft, probably identical. It probably saw around a year ago. It just took a very long time for the state to get through the review process. They had very few comments.
Good to know.
I would just point out to folks that this is a 92-acre parcel that's going under conservation restriction for the town. It's just a testament to all the great work that our Conservation Commission does, that the Stewardship Committee does, and lots of other folks that are involved in various trusts around the area. So it's great, and we're grateful to have access to this land, to be able to use it for recreation and hiking and all sorts of activities. So thank you for that.
I just want to add the property is kind of, the trails are open. There's about 1.5 miles of trails established. There's a parking area on Mechanic Street. There's no area to park on the follower. We know it's being, the property is being used and the local there.
That's nice. Any questions or comments, Maureen?
I move that the select board vote to execute the conservation restriction as presented for the District 9 Schoolhouse Conservation Area, aka Mechanic Street Conservation Area.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you for all your hard work. And Gary's enjoying himself. Well, he's young, he has to learn.
I don't mind a nice north up in there.
Well, I'm sure some neighbors have been kind of a different opinion.
That's what I say.
Next up is the designation of animal control officer and special municipal employee.
So as the board may recall, and for everyone that then also does their annual ethics training, employees can only have 2 positions. So in order to have our animal control officer also support the town of Upton by filling in as a custodian, we need to designate the position of animal control as a special municipal employee. That allows us to have, allow for the person to have 2 roles within the town.
Honestly, I think I'd like to talk to legal counsel and make sure before we make such a large.
This has been one, it's not a large change. It's allowed by Mass General Law, and this has already been reviewed by legal counsel. It is recommended by town council that this be done.
This is the first time I've seen anything about this. Other
If
than
you have questions or want to take time, obviously that's your prerogative, regardless of whether it's reviewed by legal.
exactly, I really would like to sit with them and understand, because we just went through GovHR and nothing was said then. They quite a bit of money to GovHR, so.
So one of the,
That would be very happy.
that's internally within the board's prerogative. However, this would never have come up with GovHR because GovHR is looking at positions, not whether or not they meet the requirements under Mass General Law for full 2 positions at the same time. As a result of consulting with town council, this was identified as a tier to allow for this role to provide custodial support. So I'm totally support the board if you want to invite town council in at a subsequent meeting to learn more about that. They can bring the board through why that designation is necessary. We have other positions that are already designated special municipal employees, including members of the Historical Commission, library trustees, many others, so this would just.
The town moderator too. So
We did do it to the town moderator as well, exactly. Yep.
Is this a request of the animal?
No, this would be to allow for the existing situation where there is part-time support. If, let's say, the board did not want to designate animal control as a special municipal employee, we'll just have to advertise for part-time assistance for when the custodian is on vacation and find someone else to do that work.
I read the special employee law different. I would like to
so we'll pass over this. And the next up, everybody's reading the package. It says highway superintendent appointment town manager, but in the package, mistakenly says police officer appointment. So let's not get confused because I think Dennis needs Neil. I don't think Neil wants to work for the police department, but. Thank you.
So as the board is aware, I'm sure, our long-standing highway supervisor, John Johnson, retired earlier this month without my permission.
You are totally relevant.
And he has been the backbone of the Department of Public Works for many years. 38 years serving this community, something to be said about that. Anyway, so obviously I need to have a replacement, and we have actually had someone coming up through the ranks for the last couple of years that John and I have spent a great deal of time training, and that's why I'm recommending this individual as a successor to Mr. Johnson for that position.
Any questions or comments? No.
You got 38 years now?
We'll see.
Just what tremendous testament to the commitment and dedication to helping the town of Upton for John Johnson. Just awesome. So great stuff, and certainly supportive of this succession you put in place.
I agree, and we do know where Johnny lives, Dennis. And, we're shy of plow driver. I'm sure we can just sit out front and beat and see what happens. But yes, we appreciate all. He's probably in running, but we appreciate everything. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote pursuant to section 4A of the town manager act to approve the town manager's proposed appointment of Neil Gallagher as highway supervisor within the Upton Department of Public Works.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Neil, congratulations.
Thank you.
Authorization of contract for town hall building envelope improvement project.
So as the board is aware, at a past town meeting, we were successful in obtaining funding to have a study done on the outside of this building. More of an evaluation, not a study, because about, not last winter, but the winter before, we had that storm with an odd driving rain. And we had some flooding issues on the west side of the building, where we don't typically have it. All 3 floors were flooded and we had some damage. We called in our insurance company and they subsequently contacted the experts to come out and take a look at the building. And in their report, their recommendation, they highly recommended that this is a wood framed building with a brick and mortar exterior. It requires routine maintenance, and routine being every 10 to 15 years. The brickwork needs to be repointed, the building needs to be resealed. So upon their investigation, they confirmed that that was part of the problem. They also listed some other items that we probably want to take a look at, including some of the glazing around some of the windows and along the drip edge, especially on the west side of the building, we have the snow and ice shield ends up the roof. We need to take a better look at that. So we appropriated funds already to have this done so that we can come up with a firm cost, an accurate cost for town meeting to do the actual work. So this is to enter into contract. 2014.
No questions?
Do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote to authorize the town manager to execute necessary contract town hall envelope masonry restoration and specifications project funded by Article of May 1st, 2020.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
Thank you.
Okay, so the board and for people in the audience, I want to give some updates on some things. As you may recall, we had engaged the services, the Collins Center to conduct an update of our capital improvement plan. Recognizing that we're in a period of transition, I was able to get a one-year extension from the Department of Local Services for the state's contract. That contract for that grant would have expired in October of 2026. Recognizing that town will need some additional runway to complete that effort, got a one-year extension. The DPW building project, which we're going to be discussing later on, has been having a series of weekly project meetings attended by town staff, and myself, various DPW staff, as well as representatives from Vertex, our OPM and Weston Sampson, and we've had meetings with the building committee, including last week to prepare for tonight's meeting. On August 8th, that was my last coffee with the town manager. Had a number of residents attend, and they asked questions about hiring for town manager, condition of Holy Angels, what the future is for their project, questions about the TIP project, and also expressed the hope that a future town manager would hold regular coffees at the senior center as well. For people who saw it on Facebook, and as the board is aware, the town took delivery of the handicap accessible Toyota Sienna minivan last Friday. Tanya, our ESS director, is going to be coordinating lettering, and DPW staff is going to be assisting registering that vehicle. Appraisal services request for quote deadline was today. We did receive appraisal service because of our tight time frame. A lot of them just couldn't do it in the time frame we needed, but we did get a company to available. Total contract cost would be $6,000, so entirely manageable, and I'll be executing a contract with them to do an assessment, an appraisal of 12B Milford and 0 Milford Street. Also been busy working on town manager transition, communicating with Dennis, making sure some internal procedures and processes are transferred over. Later on, we'll go over the current spreadsheet detailing various projects that I'm keeping track of, basically just trying to do a data dump of everything. Make sure that our incoming interim town manager knows exactly where things are. Moving over to department updates, the Route 140 water sewer project is progressing. Granted, it is slow. They are encountering ledge. Staff has received some complaints from adjacent property owners, such as parking vehicles within driveways and easement areas, and staff is coordinated with contractor and other people associated with the project to move vehicles. Fisk Ave, everyone may have seen that the base coat pavement is down and that we are now forming sidewalks. Just a reminder, this is supposed to be substantially complete by around Thanksgiving. Also would like to recognize John Johnson, as Dennis said, that without his permission, he had retired on August 15th. After serving for the town for 38 years, and I think part of what the success of the Department of Public Works has been is very much attributed to John as well, with his dedication to the town and to all the personnel who work in the department. Treasury collectors Jessica Gomez and Assistant Treasury Collector Patricia Marvell recently attended the Massachusetts Collectors and Treasurers Association annual school. Both passed their exam to be certified Massachusetts Municipal Collector and certified Massachusetts Municipal Assistant Collector, respectively. These certifications require 3 years of classes in order to obtain that certification. So kudos to them and job well done on getting certified. Recreation has finished this season's Kids at Play, which their last day was last Friday. With many students returning to school, lifeguard coverage has also ceased for the summer. Town will continue to do water testing through Labor Day, and DPW will be removing the docks and buoys after Labor Day. ESS is looking for a new driver position. We did have a resignation, so we went to a community. Also want to pass along the passing of Val Vatour. He was the Meals on Wheels nutrition coordinator. He's long serving with the town and the senior center specifically. While he was not an employee of the town, he was employed by Tri Valley. I don't think people really made that distinction and viewed him as a integral part of the senior center. He absolutely will be missed. Upton resident Myra Bigelow is taking over as nutrition coordinator until Tri-Valley fills that position. Land use is seeing an uptick in activity. A new subdivision application has been submitted on South Street, 4 lots. They are continuing to review a 17-lot subdivision on East Street. The ZBA is, and also they have a special permit for 2 extra lots using the large lot bylaw. ZBA continues its review of a multifamily development on Centennial Court. There are access issues and easement issues that we are working with the applicant as well as the ZBA and legal counsel on. The EDC is starting work on an infrastructure capacity study. This was funded through an economic development earmark the town received. Also, CPC recently held a meeting and is considering 2 articles for the fall for preservation activities. One through the Historic Commission to fund removal of trees at First Cemetery. The second, the Cemetery Commission is requesting funds for restoration of headstones. Library is starting work on a new strategic plan. These are required every 5 years. Their last strategic plan called for a new library. Checked that one off, that plan, and now it's looking forward to the future. Town clerk staff is working on finalizing annual street listing. And town clerk staff, along with Sue, executive assistant, as well as the town moderator, are starting to have conversations and prepare for special town meeting, which is November 4th, making sure that we have all the electronic voting software, everything taken care of the preparation. Yes.
Where is the money coming for the?
So within the select board town manager's budget, we have an allocation for engineering appraisals. So it's coming out of our, you said for the 12B Milford and the, yep, from our existing budget.
Another question on Pisgap. Will they be putting the second coat or the final coat of pavement down this year? No,
Spring.
in the spring. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Just sort of put down the base coat, get in the sidewalks, get it usable, let it settle, and then in the spring put on the final top coat.
Whenever we do a lot of trenching for either water, sewer, or drainage, we prefer to give one winter of settling. Makes it all the difference.
You guys went down like 12 inches on it under that, so there's a lot of.
Thank you. Okay. Public input and board members updates. Does anybody have any input? Hi, step forward and state your name for the record, please.
Matt here, 119 High Street. Just a quick statement here. We are the 140 Arts Collaborative, a 501c3 nonprofit organization comprised of local volunteers working to make art and culture accessible to the community. In an effort to be a friend to several persons and entities who want to give the Holy Angels Church a purpose, we were advised to become a nonprofit and to start local programming around town that showcases a need for residents, which we have done. These handouts describe the successful events we have hosted already this summer and the future ideas we are currently working on. Each event has been hosted in an area that helps local businesses share the footprint of our attendees. Soul Fuel Cafe is a notable partnership in which our attendees donated food and pantry items to the United Parish in exchange for coffee. The purpose of 140 Arts is that we are the community creating together. So far, we are really excited about the sustainable programming and look forward to see it grow.
Joe, can you see if we can, get this out to the public, because it says about the upcoming.
It's not, and what we can do is touch base and see about sharing it out through Facebook.
That way, people at home are all at it and are reading, so that way they'll.
This goes into the public. Anything of the meeting, does this get together with that? That was so fast. Can I just say, can I just?
Yes.
Good morning, 706. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do this, but I need to tell you about the film festival. So we sourced films for about 3 weeks. I don't know how many came in, but they narrowed it down to 12. It was supposed to be 10, but I think they were so great that they did 12. 71 people came. They had first the non-professionals, the college students, the doctoral students, things like that, presented their 3 to 10 minute films. And then they had a Q&A. Then we had a break, and several people went and got pizzas across the street at the pizza shop. And then after that was over, the professionals did their films, and they were amazing. And then they did a Q&A. And then we had an after party at the Rose Garden, but there was so much flutter and discussion that I don't think too many people heard. And so probably only about 30 people went over there, but that's all wonderful for Enrique and the Rose Garden. So I think if we had something like that downtown in Holy Angels, that would be happening all the time. And I'm not sure you could bring something much more vibrant to our town that would support all the businesses that we have and bring people downtown. And everyone seems to be liking what we're doing, so we're just going to keep doing it. So thank you for suggesting that we do it all in different spaces and make partnerships, and that's what we're doing. And now we have nonprofit status, as you suggested, so we're very encouraged. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Mike?
Mike Moran, your animal control officer. Just heard about this job in guys' table. There's more of this story. I talked to every one of you guys, and one of them says it's this. I want to file a harassment charge on Joe. You can do it. He's leaving. I know he's leaving, but I want it on the books. I'm glad to work with you and Dennis to fix this problem. That's been addressed before. Now it's revenge on a town meeting. When I brought up, I have zero tolerance for it. So, we'll address it. I'll deal with Dennis on it. And we'll address it. I should have been notified ahead of time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it. Yeah.
Any other public comments? From the board? All right, next. Joint meeting with DPW Building Committee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Kirby. I'm with the Vertex Companies, the Upland project. I want to share my screens.
Madam Chair, thank you for having us. The point of this was pretty well to date. We had hosted a meeting in the building committee meeting. I don't see anybody there, so no need to talk. So we may go on. Yes, back in, just as a little background, this committee was resurrected a few months ago. to try to bring this project that's been going on for a long time to a conclusion. And we've had reconvened the committee, was reformed. We really tried to get something together to be ready to do something at least fall town meeting. Well, it was just too big of an ask to do. There wasn't sufficient time for these gentlemen to do everything that was required. So now we're working to come up with some better numbers to be ready to go forward at the spring town meeting. The OPM, Mr. Kirby, and the two gentlemen from Weston Sampson. Your floor, gentlemen.
JP Parnas, project manager from Weston & Sampson.
Thank you.
Tony Westpizer, also a project manager with Weston & Sampson.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, gentlemen, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. So just sort of wanted to give you a status update and then also preparation for some brief history. Weston Sampson was hired for a feasibility study from 2017 to 2021. Project was restarted in 2025 for schematic design. Vertex Companies was selected as OPM. Weston & Sampson was selected as designer and we continued on as designer in May 2025. And Weston & Sampson Vertex has been meeting with the working groups design and site investigations. We have a design progress to date. We've done a survey of the property, delineation, space needs assessment, hazardous materials survey, existing building survey, existing vehicle and equipment inventory, and geotechnical investigations this week. And we have some initial schematic design site plan options, very high level to share with you. Again, schematic design progress, the Weston Sampson Space Needs Report, and we have existing site plan for options. So I will go to these.
So very briefly, we have restarted this programming effort. We've been asking the staff to review the program that was, I think, last updated in 2020. And went through every space to make sure it was sized correctly. Operations. The main change is basically adding an additional shop space in the water and wastewater. That was the large addition to the space needs since 2020. From that, we are able to come up with a footprint for the building. And looking at the site, the plans in your package, I have to say, not really been vetted by Dennis all that much yet. It was sort of just to get in what we're working on essentially. So these are our first look at some concepts, proof of concepts. Basically, the goal is we're looking at two types of options. One is to reuse the existing building as much as we can in a cost-effective way because not renovated very much at all, actually. And the other option is to look at an entirely new building and tear down the old building. It is an old building. It's probably reached its useful life. And in the end, a new building is going to be much more cost effective. We're looking at both options. We know reusing existing buildings is generally preferable if possible. Oftentimes not very possible. So what you see here are, again, are very high level concepts of the first couple are reusing the existing building, and there's a couple that look at some new construction. We're currently working on some different options from this that we're going to talk to Dennis about. Once we get to that point, we'll start looking at actual building plans and be able to put a package together to get a cost estimate.
You think when you say the current building is at the end of its useful life, I'm correct, it's a metal building, a steel building? So if it's at the end of its useful life, we're not talking about.
Correct.
We're talking something that I.
Yes, it's in bad shape. And those metal buildings, in every case, are built to the bare minimum code. So what it might have meant back then does not meet code anymore.
How long is this building now?
That building was opened in 1995, and back then it had a estimated use of like 30 years. Just where we are now.
It's quite close. That was-
Questions on the options?
Yeah, I mean, is there a way that you would characterize the various options? Sort of see the different footprints and they're sort of tweaked here and there, but is there sort of a way that you would say like, oh, well, this one kind of is everything and this one includes the least amount? Is it in any kind of order or is there any kind of?
Again, not really, because these are sort of first looks at just what fits on the site. Well, ultimately, we're going to come up with two different schemes. One is reusing the existing building and adding on to the back of it. So one of those first schemes. And then we're looking at schemes that build an entirely new building outside of the existing footprint of the building so that that operation can remain while the new construction goes on. Then the front part of the site could potentially be used.
That's a key component of this project. It's not like that's an empty site. It's true, we're gonna be working on it, you know, use the word phasing, but it's phasing under one project. One section, we move into it, we move into the section that they vacated to renovate it or to tear it down. It's gotta be coordinated. The operation can't shut that down during the time.
And that's one benefit, additional benefit to looking at a completely separate new building. We can build that while our operation remains. And it's something we're still vetting.
Is the design to bid the same quality regardless of the option that we choose?
Not necessarily, but we don't see a huge cost difference.
If we're going to reuse a building that we might have to structurally upgrade, there's more work that's going into that structure. We're going to weigh the cost benefit of, again, just taking it down, going up new, or doing that retro. We're not at that point.
And the intent, I think, would be to renovate it as soon as possible, as I mentioned, so really to use it just as storage space. And we're building a new storage space that's actually the cheapest type of space to build, so it's not that much of a savings to not build that new.
The estimates that we have seen over the years sort of carrying forward in any regard, like we have a sense of, option one looks great, that's clearly the Cadillac, at least things that we're looking at. In rough order of magnitude on what we're looking at in terms of dollars, because if we go to the town meeting and ask for $2.9 million or $2 million to do the design build, people are going to want to know, well, what's the all-in cost?
We're at a very, very high level at this point, as you know, but the previous costs, we'll look at those. We're in a range of 29 to 33, based on our current costs in construction. And again, sometimes a renovation may be a little bit less than new, but it depends on the extent of that renovation. And these are mainly square foot costs. Yeah, we knew that question was coming.
Exactly, and that's what you're going to discuss, that's why. Yes.
So, as somewhat the next step, which is this coming November's town meeting, we're just going for the design development, construction documents, cost estimate, pre-qualification, and bidding costs. We had the conversations as far as the timing goes. There was lots of maybe, right, a special town meeting during 2026. Just don't have the time to do that. So we're really looking at going funding for the design as well, going to the May town meeting with a construction document estimate to go for the construction funds, and then potentially pre-qualifying and definitely bidding after town meeting, because we do need that time. This next step is really 8 months worth of work with the town meeting, prep for the town meeting. It's earlier than that. So, you know, you can go to say the town meetings with the bid in hand. You can also go to the town meeting with an estimate. And, you know, there's pros and cons to both. Sometimes when you don't have the funds appropriated, you may not get contractors to bid on it because they prefer to bid on something. And that it also has to do with whatever the market is. The market right now is really good for owners. Don't know what it's going to be. So that's right now is our plan is to start the design development, move into construction documents, get that estimate, go to town meeting, and then the election. And then if everything passes, we'll go on to the general contractor and start sometime in potentially July. So the design to bidding funding request, so I've given you a high level breakdown here. Designer fee is $1,968,000. OEM fee $297,613. Other soft costs such as peer review, advertising, so putting in a contingency, 5% in case this is something we're not expecting. And our total is just a little over for design. And further on in your packet is much more detailed of those costs.
I have a couple. Perhaps to Brett, for you to, based on your questions, better understand the literature you have in front of you, the different options that they put forward. Those are not really financially different options. They're showing different ways that the building could be constructed and how the layout would be. One of them is a completely new building next to the one that's existing, and they would tear that one down and make it the parking lot. All the other ones you see are utilizing the existing building and adding on to it. The biggest driver for this is sheer footage. You're looking at a current facility of 9,000, correct me when I'm off on this, 9,000 plus square feet currently. And we're gonna, if we meet the needs of the department or the future of the town, we're looking at 30,000 square feet. So we're not doubling, we're tripling the size of the building. And it's not an extravagant building. It doesn't have granite floors. And, you know, there's not a rotunda you walk into with a howitzer mounted in the corner. It's not like that. Statue of me.
Another thing you have to consider here is that right now, Maple Avenue, I strike that, right now Pleasant Street just has the DPW, basically the highway division. Anticipated that in the new building, he will be bringing in water and sewer, which they will have their separate, their own area, which accounts again for the little increase in the square footage request over the prior design drawings that we had. Exactly.
Does that include?
Yes. And it does, because if I can through the chair. So years past, long before I got here, there's been discussions about adding additional facilities to the wastewater division. Put their equipment, their trucks and everything they have just stays outside. And they have one small garage with they stuff a compressor, some other items and small compact, street compactors and things of that nature. There was talk a long time ago of what it would take to actually put a structure up there. But that's as you know, that's a very small footprint real estate, which we don't even own frontage. Right, so what we're doing is we're taking that, trying to kill two birds with one stone, we're taking that, already that need, and we're applying it here. They're still gonna have the facility, all of the pump stations around town, all of the infrastructure, the wastewater treatment plant still gonna exist. And the staff is gonna do pretty much what the highway staff does. They come in the morning, but now that they congregate in one location so that we have and the ability to everybody discuss what's going on for the day, something came up, and you have all the different departments, divisions within the department speaking to each other to coordinate their efforts so that if water and sewer is working on hydrant replacement and highways going out doing paving today, they can streamline the process and they can, you know what I mean? They can save the town money by killing two birds with one stone. So for doing that, there will also be a buy-in from water and wastewater through the enterprise accounts to assist with costs. And that has to be, that number will actually be put together with the assistance of Kenny Costa, the finance director, and the approval of DOR. Because as you know, we can't spend retained earnings or commitments to enterprise accounts without DOR's approval. We have to demonstrate how we come up with those numbers. To a certain degree, it won't be, it's not like it'd be 50-50 or even remotely close, but there would be a buy-in from water and wastewater because of the addition that we're putting into this building that houses those employees and their equipment will come inside.
And if I may, that is not an unusual procedure in this town, because like you can remember when we've extended water sewer lines and things like that, there was always a shared cost of 50% for the user fee and 50% by the town. Basically, the user fee, the user was paying twice because he was paying for it in the tax bill and he was paying an additional on the user fee, but that's, we've done that. So 2 or 3 times that I can think of now. And coming back to what one of these gentlemen said, there's wants and there's needs. And we've been working at this process of trying to expand that building 5 years or more, maybe 7. You go back and you look at how much time and everything was spent on it. It's time to do this, because if that building, as I just alluded to, is 30 years old. If this doesn't happen now, I don't know when it's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen in my lifetime. And it should be done.
Wouldn't necessarily be ready to see that.
Extensive work anyhow.
But may I just add one more thing? I don't want to step on their toes. One of the things you're going to find is that the energy code changed a couple of years ago. And that is going to be a huge factor driving the cost of that building. Maybe you may want to address that.
Just changed again this summer, actually.
Building.
appreciate the update. I appreciate the work that you've been doing.
You guys done?
Yes.
Look, and the other thing, as outreach, we're talking about, the committee has arranged to have a table on the Common Heritage Day, and we have some materials that we can pass out and some numbers that we can display. Maybe even not that day, but then it's going to arrange for some guided tours if people want to see the facility that we're in now. So we are in the process of trying to make this need known to the public.
I don't think the public is really much about the hazardous waste today. I don't think anyone even knows. Kind of shielded behind the trees back there.
We talked about community outreach and a number of Heritage Day. What's up, having information or updating information on the website, because there is a link to the community, has some of the older studies on it. We need to update that and then get out there and no one. That's nothing worse than having someone say at town meeting, "You've never heard about this." So we're going to try and make that effort to at least.
I do think it will benefit us to be very clear-eyed and clear about the fact that we just spent $30 million of taxpayers' money on the schools and fields and doing a lot of work there. And we had our multi-board meeting a few weeks ago. And one of the things that came up there, I think it was you, brought up the fact that it's up to this board to sometimes make the hard decisions about what goes on the warrant and what doesn't, and what things we need and what we don't need, because it's getting very expensive. And taxes are a concern that people have. And so I think it's our job to rationalize those two things, to say, hey, we understand that there's pressure on your tax bill. We understand that people on fixed incomes, on that are working, single moms with kids, like, it's a struggle. So how are we gonna position this as a need for the town in a way that makes sense to those people that are really feeling that pain? Because if they show up at town meeting and all they feel is their pain, then they're not gonna vote for it. So how do we get that message out there to say, hey, this is important? This is like investing in upgrading your, or painting your house. Like, this isn't a joy project for most people in town. They don't see it. It's not paving a road. It's not building a community center. It's not renovating Holy Angels. Right? This is like sort of a thing that we don't know about and appreciate and love and value. But we've got to get that message to people. Heritage Day, clearly, great idea. But I think we all also just need to talk about it and articulate it to the people that we socialize with and that we talk to get the questions out there, because this is, November town meeting is going to be here before we know it, and then we're asking for $2.5 million in November, and then in May we're going to be asking for $30 million. Like, that's a quick one too, that we need to make sure we start building the momentum for folks.
I think you still lay a plan that, so like their fields, really lay it out. Yes, Steve, kind of.
One of the things we did when we were embarking on the renovation of town hall to get people aware was we had a videographer come in and take a video of the inside of the building while we renovated it. And we showed that at the town meeting. People who had never been inside town hall, wondering where is all this money going to go to? See what the conditions were. Maybe something like that could be done. The DPW site and say, here's what it looks like. Just 90% of the people that live here is probably never.
I know they don't seem to realize that our DPW, they often flag off the roads, the sidewalks, and why is it not street flag? It's the DPW. We need the equipment ready to go, ready to roll.
Maybe a video is a way to get the people aware of what the conditions are without.
It would be pretty obvious once they start.
I was gonna say, that's the critical thing, right? Like a picture's worth 1,000 words, so it's a great idea to have pictures and a video to sort of tell that story. And I do think that the DPW has, more so than in any other community I've been in, I've only been in a few communities, but I was on the planning board and zoning board in Northbridge, so I was very familiar with what went on there. And the DPW in this town is looked at with very high regard. So I think, and that's largely due to the people there like Johnny, to Dennis, and all of the staff. The roads are great, the pavements are great, the plowing's great. I think largely we've got a lot of support in this town for the DPW. So let's take advantage of that. It's really
Great idea. I'll put it up on the website so that people can review it. Any questions, comments? Thank you. We appreciate the update.
We will be back in another month.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, discussion of special town meeting warrant article.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was also sort of involving Dennis and well, the main thing is looking at the presentation recommendations. From Vertex, they identified a recommendation for a request for completing design and bid. So if the board is supportive of putting a placeholder, we can draft an article. So at least once the warrant closes, the board can then consider and review language and also into later until the building committee meets again. You can always reopen the warrant and have a more refined article. But that was the purpose of this next agenda item, was just to identify what the board wanted to include so that can prepare the language.
Personally, I think we should prepare some better placeholder. It's easier to move than that.
Madam Chair, if I may, I forget exactly when it was, but in 2017 or 19, there was an article at a special town meeting, appropriated $25,000 for purposes of basically what we're doing now. There's still $12,500 of that amount left.
Okay,
So, like I say, 12,500 as opposed to 2 million. Not much, but it's, you know. But the money's, the money's there just sitting. So that could be, I looked at it, I think that it didn't refer to schematic design, and that's what we're talking about here, schematic design. And that's part of the reason why we can't use money from the community center building, because the enabling language on that did not include schematic design. It was just construction and everything related to construction. That's why that money can't be used. That anything left over in that building committee, the community center account, can be applied towards construction, not schematic design. And there's 400 and something thousand there.
If I had my druthers, I think that this would be a project we would undertake in 2 or 3 years. I agree with Paul and with Dennis and people that know how this stuff goes. We've been nudging this along for 5 to 7 years already, and I was part of the select board when we said, hey, let's look at this. So I understand. I'm just thinking back to that multi-board meeting and thinking about the taxpayers and thinking, can we let them get used to the new tax rate after the $30 million spend, see how that goes for a couple of years, and then see if they're on board. I think I will get behind and I will support this 100%. You know, the 2.5 million in November and in May. I just wanted to share with you both that that's sort of something that you know occurs to me and makes me pause a little bit about.
That's a huge hurdle that I'm thinking every time. Millions higher. And, but
Right, it was $15 million years ago, and we give it another 3 or 4 years.
We did first of all, the community center, and now we're at the school.
And,
And then we're gonna be looking at fire and police and fire and something like that. So, you know, there is a sequence to it, and I think we're on it, and that's okay, but it's a little unsettling.
Madam Chair, just if I may, what it's worth. The school thing was $30 million. Mr. Samus is correct. However, that's the whole ball of wax. Our share is only a little more than 50% of it. So to say it's $30 million is not. That's the cost of the whole project.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
I'm just talking, Upton share is somewhere 55 or 54%, somewhere in there.
Yeah, across. No, that's a
And that fluctuates. Annually.
So it's $15 million down. That's what it's at.
but yet this is, to your point, this is what we need to clarify. Because everyone's gonna go, oh my God, my tax bill is going up by 30 million. And it's not, because we forget that's joint. And so this is part of our market, that we need to educate the people. And then the fact that the numbers coming up, we have 400 in reserve that we can use. And, you know, water's gonna weigh in with enterprise. And I imagine consolidating everything would mean consolidating electricity. So, don't think about how it goes up every year.
I think it's like articulating for folks, like, we were very intentional about investing in our 55+ communities, right? We're building several 55+ neighborhoods. We built a community center and a senior center and a library to take care of that. We took care of that part of the community. Now we're taking care of children and families with children. We took care of the children by investing in the schools. And now we're going to take care of the services. We're going to take care of our DPW services. The next step for that, we'll take care of fire and police services. And just explain, you know, keep articulating that cycle. Like it's a 30+ year cycle, but
it's like owning a house. The second you get everything done,
that's right.
it's hard to start again.
You go back to the beginning.
We get the MSA money, we have 48%.
That's only
That's
for
only
the
for
roof.
roof. It's still.
It's still a house.
But still, exactly. All those little offsets become relevant.
Right.
Exactly.
It was pretty good. I just grabbed $15 million for it, just like.
It's great to have you in the room because brain is like an encyclopedia. Just flip over to this
This guy.
well, and we can start out as we get closer. Thank you. I have motion for action or I didn't see the lots of these. Okay. What else? So that was. Are we just prepared with the special town meeting warrant article? Yep. Structural assessment.
Absolutely. Sit right next to you.
Everyone may want to put his hand on your knee.
And provided work class Thursday. Two slides here. Work we did and estimates that we created as a result of this building, surveying at the assembly area, assembly hall. So for that reason, I need code load requirements for roofs, doors, and assess the condition of the building that did. With that, the repair plan and costs associated with go through the slides. Is that probably the most efficient thing to do? I'll do the slides for 2 minutes. So, as you all know, it's a 225-year-old church. As I said earlier, the town is interested in keeping the order using this assembly area. We're asked to provide cost estimates for the stabilization. Now, one thing that I wanted to emphasize before I continue, and it might have been, you may remember from our previous presentation, we stated that the 4 main things the town asked us to price. We concluded that in order for those 4 things to really be successful, there are other things that needed to be added to the scope of work to try to stymie the deterioration. We added several other estimates beyond what the town asked us to estimate to support the overall original goal, setting that church up as a light box ready for some sort of finish, such as finished carpentry, furniture, chairs, no condition walls. So, you know, some of you may have been in it. I have a ton of pictures in my report. I have another information for more file about that. Siding is wood clapboards with shiplap sheathing, and in the rear, where there was an addition sometime in the past, siding is vinyl. There are no modern envelope installations on this church. And what I mean by that is today's building science, building. There are several layers in order to make the building paper-proof as well as waterproof. That's their ability to ensure that water intrusion doesn't damage, create mold, or create runs. And this church doesn't have any of those elements based on the data. So one would question, well, why the last so long? The main reason is because since there was no vapor barriers at all, virtually no insulation back in the day, if water did intrude, it would just breathe. And insulation was introduced without vapor barrier, which is the condition which we found it, and to trap the ability for it to dry. As a result, the water did not evaporate. And then we ended up with a tremendous amount of rot, especially visible in the basement walls and sill of the church. So this is what I mean by WRB. And this was the part of this entire project that we really wanted to emphasize really should be done in order to preserve all the other improvements that are going to be implemented and not wasted, give you the biggest return. I know her. Anyway, our children went to school. So anyway, as you may remember from the previous presentation, there's a lot of sill beam rot, water damage, studs, floor deflection. And what I mean by floor deflection, the first floor, the main of the church. In the process of determining the structural condition of the building, he created or hired two people. First was to provide us guidance on the estimation of the improvements needed to repair all of the rot. And we also hired a firm to do a laser scan. The laser scan allows us to see the bones, well into the deflections that the building may have that may perhaps have an impact on its future stability. So these are all included in the report. So you can see both deflections are on walls and on floors. I'm happy to say that the deflections we saw were minimal. And we were walked away during the structure feeling pretty good that it's in a good place. This post and beam building, that's like a stand stick build platform structure. It's post and beam. And between the beams is infill. That is basically the construction. So, yeah, we saw a few bulging walls. Clearly, you see the failing paint. And again, the bulging walls not referring to us. We've had missing shingles, organic growth. Steeple is open to the weather. Roof is leaking. Yeah, the ADA ramp is broken. There's really no ADA access. And updated boiler, HVAC wiring, administrative system, all the things that key the building upgraded to the public space. So the basement overall is a stone and concrete foundation. The front original part of the foundation is really concrete block, set on concrete blocks below grade. We don't know how deep they go. So we opine that since the building is sold and it hasn't settled in the term of dangerous settlement, that the foundation is solid and the foundation and stones are stable. So we're happy with the foundation as it stands, barring the fact that it needs to be repaired. There are missing stones, missing water that's been neglected. That is part of the estimation that there is a repair needing to be done, but we're not really sill plates, and that is, I don't know if you know what a sill plate is, but that is the board that the building rests on. So the sill plate goes right on top of the concrete foundation, and from there, the building sill plate attaches the building to the foundation. It's rotten in many places. Sill plates back in the day, they weren't two-ply treated boards or timber. It is a tree that was hewn in order to shape it so it's very thick. It's but it's rotted in many places. The first floor is about a 3.5 inch slope in areas, mainly in the middle toward the altar. Again, that's through settling fairly in the past. When the floor was reinforced. Additional lolly columns were added in the basement. You have evidence that there were 2 lolly columns hanging beams that support the joists of the first floor. It is obvious from that evidence that they added a 3rd lolly column on 2 of the beams, 2 main beams that hold up the first floor. They added a third beam column on the front and the rear main beams to hold up the first floor. Then they moved the other 2 spaced and changed the span. So it's likely at some point in the past they thought it was bouncy. May have been, and in terms of that, they added those features.
Choir loft, stairs going to the choir loft are really not narrow, but there may be some wiggle room there for existing, because the code does allow some, quite a bit of leeway with the existing building, bringing it up to current code, so that would be an investigation. The other main structural thing I want to talk about is trusses. Back at the last presentation in July, I mentioned that the roof trusses, because we hadn't got to that part of our structural analysis. So we have now done that. Yeah, based on the snow load requirements of the current code and the wind resistant requirements of the current code, the roof trusses are undersized. Contemplating the placement or contemplating sistery to the existing ones to allow them to meet the current code requirements. One of our first things we were asked to do in this initial request for proposal was to replace boiler, HVAC, and the electrical updated, get the plumbing straightened out, and deal with upgraded fire alarms in addition to EDA requirements. So what you see in this slide here are the current systems that are in the building. Something I'll also mention is that there may have been a generator. Property sometimes you see a generator. You see no sign that the generator is there, but the switch box is. So maybe it was planned to be added, so they put the switch box in, but never put it in. Just don't know. But it appears as though the entire electrical service is 400 amps. The breaker boxes are pretty new, pretty modern. It's some upgrading that done, but the majority of the cost is updated. The HVAC system, it's outdated, it's end of life, it's about 38 years old. So we're proposing 2 systems to replace the HVAC system. Now, the reason it's important that HVAC system is kind of done in parallel to the refurbishment of the building, because you really need to control the humidity in the building, minimize the risk. During the initial presentation, we discussed that there was evidence of mold. You in turn asked us to make the testing, getting the results back this week, about whether there's mold or not in the building. Based on our experience, there definitely is. We just need to get the data. Mold is everywhere. It's on the painted surface, and it's also on beams and joists that are exposed. So the mold is going to be a problem, makes it very unhealthy, needs to be mitigated. But once that's mitigated and the repairs begin, you want to make sure that you're conditioning the space, control the humidity, to avoid additional mold, minimize the chance of mold occurring. So that's important forward, along with the vapor barriers that we talked about earlier, to ensure that breathe, but also water doesn't.
Is mold remediation included in the assessments here?
It is in the second request for proposal. So when I was asked by Joe to provide test results on mold, asbestos, lead, and radon. We are getting those results this week. In addition to that, we will be providing estimates for abatement.
They're not in this.
They're not included. We weren't in the scope of this project. But we'll be adding the report things. Yeah. The plumbing is all ripped out anyway, so that all has to be. And then, our fire safety elements of the building is no straight. So we haven't placed that. So our original scope, now it's going to jump right into prices here. And the scope of each of these
these remediations is described in detail in the report. So you know exactly how we scoped it, you know, what the deliverable will be. So structural stabilization, well, you see the slide, right? Overall, for the items that we originally asked to provide was the items you see on the slide. Subtotal to complete all those items is just under. That doesn't include all the other stuff we're going to talk about next. But that's just the initial scope you asked us to. You go to the next slide. These are the other recommended repairs that we think should be done in parallel to the previous, in order to get the greatest return on your investment, not having to do it all the time, always keeping up with it. Try to just get it done once and make it just worry about maintenance rather than capital investments. So roof trusses and the roof, almost $200,000. Making the steeple watertight, which we strongly recommend. You see it there. Doing the entire envelope and insulation. Now, we're talking about taking all the clapboards off. We're talking about putting in all the proper weather barriers and flashing, taking out the windows, making sure that we are flashing all the leftovers. Painting the building. And of course, trying, you know, maintaining in every way possible the aesthetic. Period. The whole $300,000. Then doing all the drywall and ceilings, getting it ready to paint, $160,000. So general demolition and general conditions are up to another $971,000. For total, I think it's on the next slide. Right here. I think $1.86 million. Yeah. So based on the original scope we were asked to look at, recommending that this would be estimated price to get this building ready for its next product. And that's probably going to have a lot more investments on lighting, carpeting, all the things that space that will be addition to those. The total is 1.861 million would be all the remediations that I've described to make it ready for its final fit out.
We're being on the hazardous waste.
That'll be in the next report. Yeah, it'll be no later than the end of the first.
And those will include not only the ESCs to the X, Y, and Z.
And we'll provide you the rest of it.
And it's not included in the 1.8 million. General rough order of magnitude when you've got lead, mold, and asbestos, we're talking 1,000 or 500,000 or 800,000. That you have a sort of a range of what it could, you know, what you'd normally expect.
For you know, kind of I think it would be less than 500,000. It would be less. So I think that's it, right? Oh yeah, so what we're trying to do, as I mentioned at the beginning, is we're trying to minimize water infiltration so the repairs are not compromised or their useful life reduced because the causes of the rot aren't addressed. So we think that's why this additional investment, we believe, is extremely important to get the biggest return on your investment. Is that it? Yeah, pretty much. You know, I pretty much covered everything on that slide, and I think I'm taking
Talk about the steeple And if there's any, I don't know how the funding sources would work for renovating the steeple with historical, original form or character, or if there's even companies that do the steeple. It is something that occurs to me. If we're potentially looking at investing in renovating and building this building out for the next, just to last 250 years or 225 years, then maybe we would want to consider that. I don't know.
I you know, it's funny, we looked one night, and we all took a good look at it. See it, we know it's there. Why is, well, I don't understand. It's a bell tower. It's not all known to those people. They keep it. What happened to it? And then honestly, I went online, and I didn't realize.
What's not there?
No, Bella's gone.
Well, done, but the Steeple bell tower, maybe that's the right word. That's mostly for the sound of the bell.
Right.
Still there, with flags.
And then Alex is also one.
Yeah, you know, so is it really, the bell tower meets the asphalt roof at intersection. It's behind it, it's also.
And I guess I would leave it to the historians. An observation that this, the current building doesn't look like a year too old building. No.
So we should get your,
Yeah, hazmat stuff, yeah, but that'll be, at the end of the first week of September.
And I'm assuming the next agenda item, next steps of funding sources, I don't know if your funding is that more?
That's really for us, and we do have my PENCO with CPC to sort of talk about. And just before we proceed, just as I saw in the meeting chat, Maureen and Laura, if you can bring those mics closer. You can hear Brett, but people aren't really hearing you, so just maybe speaking into the mics or just projecting it.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Okay.
Take care.
Discussion next steps.
When we're talking about sources, we do have Kathy Robertson who does have her raised this.
Okay, I told you I can't. Let's see, I'm not from the old sites. And you.
You're just identifying that we want to raise.
Good, because I can't see it. Kathy, did you have a comment?
She's in my car.
Kathy, can you unmute your mic? You had your hand up.
Oh, maybe, okay, can you hear me? Joe, can you folks hear me?
Kathy, are you there?
I am unmuted. I don't know if you folks can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear. You just.
Oh, okay. No, the reason I keep asking it is we can't hear you guys at all. At least I can't hear you guys at all. Every once in a while I'll get snippets, but I could not hear very much anybody if you can't tell. So I do have one quick question, and I probably won't hear the response unless you speak directly into the microphone. And you may have already explained this, but when you're talking about the total price tag of that, did that include or not include the hazmat, the removal of asbestos, the removal of any other, the hazardous material assessment and the removal of any hazardous materials found? Or was that the additional $500,000 estimated?
Kathy, that did not include, that would be an additional 500,000. And unfortunately, this new microphone system we have, although enormous, you have come through extremely loud and clear, and I apologize you cannot hear us.
Okay. I heard a little bit of that, but not too much. But the bottom line is the only thing I heard was the $500,000 is not included in the 1.9 give or take price tag.
I'm upping all of the microphones.
You seem to be working fine, Joe.
I don't know what's going on, Kathy. Since we've got this new system, it's not spectacular. And honestly, we don't know. Nobody can hear us unless somebody comes into our meeting and raises our hand. We have worked repeatedly. Like I said, we have the spaceship above us that apparently does not work. We have microphones in front of us. I have never been told people can't hear me. It's never been an issue. It's kind of shocking.
We can hear you better now.
That
was all much better. Yeah.
And Laura, the same thing happens at planning board meetings. We have the same issue where people can't hear when they call in. So we do encourage everyone to show up.
Thank you. Next steps and funding sources?
Yes.
Okay. Liz, is that you here, LH? Hand raised?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. So the visual is poor and the audio is poor. Just so you all know, you look foggy. You can't really see you, and you couldn't hear the presenter very well either. So that's my first comment. Sorry that's happening to all of you. My second comment in regards to the presentation on Holy Angels, is it my understanding that the ADA portion that was looked at, that 180,000 was just based on the assessed value of the building, correct?
I don't understand the question, and I don't know the answer. I don't know if Joe does or.
Okay, so the question is, Joe, through the chair, excuse me.
Sure.
The question is that they had figured 188,000 for the ADA portion, the Holy Angels, to bring it up, but that only covers the some of the interior of the building and the ramp that's there. That's it, correct? It isn't any outside access.
It was complete access. There was access to the building and restrooms is what was in his presentation.
Okay.
Access to the building and restrooms. I don't know if you heard Dennis.
Yes, I heard Dennis, so it's what I think it was. I'm just confirming. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have their hand up? Okay. Anyone in the room have any questions? Steve?
Elevator included in the ADA or not?
It sounds like not, Steve, and I think what the presentation you saw tonight is basically to secure the envelope. It is not to do anything inside or prepare it for a meeting space. It's basically the, 186 plus the potential of 500 for the hazmat is simply to secure the envelope. And
I don't think so. It says
It's not fixing the interior.
Structural stabilization, it's mechanical, electrical,
Right.
plumbing, ADA compliance,
Yes.
steeple, envelope, insulation, drywall, ceilings, roofs, trusses.
It's to get into occupancy.
Is it to get into occupancy? So I misunderstood?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Looks like we, like, Paul,
Yeah, 5 to 15 million, yeah, I am now totally blown around.
5 million.
Okay.
So I have another ADA question. When it comes down to, you've taught me well, Lynn. When it comes down to ADA compliance, does it talk about any of the handicapped parking or access to the building structure itself? Is that under site work, which was in the phase 2 slides or the second group of slides, or is that just the next step out that's not even calculated into this, you know?
Yeah, that's a building, it doesn't include parking.
Did you hear that, Kathy? Just a building, no parking.
Okay, thank you.
Mike had his hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. Good Chair, based on the question with the elevator, I had the same question. I think now would be a good time to actually have a cost estimate to install an elevator. I think almost any use would probably, especially for handicap accessibility, really need help.
I agree.
Reduce space downstairs. People have access to both floors.
I think it's required as well. I don't think it's a multiple choice question. And especially, maybe that's a point of clarification the next time Criterion comes in, we can ask, because I agree. That's why I honestly thought it was securing the building, not necessarily building out for assembly, because I knew the elevator was missing.
But that's like an added owner of the building as a board is responsible for delivering something to the taxpayers in the community. Clearly, we want, and we have access to both floors. Well, I don't know if it's an elevator or not, but you need to be able to get to both, any usable level of that building short of choir. I think that's gonna be a different thing. But those other 2 main levels, we need to have, if we're spending $200 million renovating buildings, we need to have access to both of those floors.
Needs to be done correctly.
It would be required in order to obtain occupancy.
Well, I think there might be ways to say we're gonna have this part of the building used for this thing and this part of the building not used for that. But we wouldn't do that, so I agree with you.
We assume that on those numbers, they just threw around, that they are based on prevailing wage.
I would have to assume that they are, because these are architects that know that these are going to be open, these are going to need to be compliant with procurement law. And, even associated with the fact that because of the cost amounts, we're also going to have to follow procurement law, and this will require an OPM to be identified and brought on board before we even start doing some of this work. So, under next steps is also identifying, because we can't just put together an article for 1.8 million and say, okay, let's go in front of town meeting. There's some logistic things that we also need to work through and identify so that we can be on a defined path moving forward to give staff and boards an opportunity to participate and help guide that process.
Anything in excess of 1.5 million requires an OPM.
Karen, do you have a comment? Somebody has their hand up, Joe?
See, I think it's.
Get the big TV.
Yeah, Lori and Catherine both have their hand up.
Okay. Choose one. Joe.
Could I?
Lori, yes.
So, oh, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. It's Lori Woden, 7 Nelson Street. Are we going to have a chance to ask the man who was just here from Criterion the answer to any of these questions? Has he left the building so we can't ask him?
He's left the building, yes. He'll be back the first week of September.
Okay, that's very helpful. And the other thing I want to know,
Turn this down, it hurts my ears. I'm sorry, Lori, you don't realize that? You are coming in about a 38 volume. It's painful to my ears. We're
So I
trying-
should speak softly?
Oh, that's not.
It's,
I don't think it's you.
I think it's just the microphone, Lori.
Is this better?
No, it's worse.
You want it louder?
No.
Okay, okay. I don't know what
Wait.
to say.
There's something over here earlier.
Right, I know, and it's not, these are the mic pickup.
I'm getting ready to run.
This is like a comedy of errors tonight. They can't hear us and we're getting blasted out the windows. Okay, did we do anything?
I don't think so.
Through the chair, the only question I think that has been raised that we didn't have a definitive answer for is about the elevator.
Okay,
And I'm sure we can get that answer relatively quick.
I would think they put elevators in buildings all the time. And
Other than
give them a ballpark.
That's the thing, like, it's not right, it's like your dad with the remediation, right? Like,
Right. He gave us the ballpark.
It's not gonna be $2 million for an elevator.
No.
It's gonna be $150,000 for an elevator, so you're from 2.3.
So I think we can reach out to Criterion and ask.
So I think in terms of next steps and funding sources is, other funding sources other than we're thinking of other than town meeting, are we thinking of going to town meeting in in November with some sort of an ask relative to Holy Angels based on where they are?
Don't know how much we need to ask, yeah. I mean, give them the whole cost before you go just a figure.
Are there?
No, not really, because you're gonna do engineering and all that. They already have a cost.
Are there funding sources? I know we've discussed it, but has anybody ever looked into it further to say, hey, there's this grant, there's that grant, we can go here, we can go there? It's been raised 5 or 6 times, and I don't know if anybody or who would have followed up.
So we have, and we have lists of grants for all of them. But if we take a step back and think about it, like how we approach the DPW building. We first identified an amount to allow for a building committees to start to do some sort of feasibility study to identify what we're looking at for costs. We have this report coming in with the mold remediation. Andrew said, it won't be more than 500,000, but you're looking at $2.3 million. Typically, design is 10% of that. That's still $200,000 to $220,000. DPW had an approval for smaller amounts. I think the first request was 25,000. We only used 12 of that to come up with a concept, and then appropriated another $225,000 to bring the project to 25% design plans. We would have to approach it in a very similar fashion, identifying some initial fundings to take this work and start to identify what is this going to actually look like, and to then move forward with maybe being the basis for bringing on an OPM to then do some initial design work again at the 25, because each of these items, the exterior improvements, all the things that were listed out, those require specification and plans to be developed. And we would need funding for that first, because right now, to put out a procurement request for someone to say fix the exterior, I would need standards and specifications, and we'd need professional assistance to develop that.
You need this is just an estimate.
This is ballparking us, and then we start.
First step of process.
What would the original process be? Is anybody interested in pursuing that process? Because I feel like how long I've been here promoting renovating this church, and that there's not a lot of support. So let's just be clear about who supports this and who doesn't.
I think we need to know the steps and the numbers. I mean, I thought we could, honestly, I was like, oh, do we go and ask the town, it's gonna be X to button it up. But now I'm hearing we need an OPM, and then that adds a couple 100,000, and then.
I think the town manager works to the point, and I think if the board said we want this on the November warrant to get funded to move this along the path towards completion, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the other thing is, Dennis's hand
Well, I
went up.
see exactly what Brent's calling for.
Okay.
There is a direction in the process. It's a little more convoluted and complicated because we have to follow math laws. And because of the size of the finances for this building, it's going to be a chapter 149.7 and that's going to mandate design selection. Because that's what we do here in Upton, and that's the law of the problem. So we would have to bring on Russ and OPM. So that's the first funding source you need. You need to bring an OPM on, and then the OPM can assist you with design selection and hiring an architect engineer to come in and start working on the design. So we break it up backwards like that and start with OPM, go with the design selection, and then from there you work towards big spec documents that involve the.
So we go to November town meeting asking for funding for an OPM for this project.
That's what I'm saying, that's your first step.
So are we interested in taking that first step? I mean, people can add it.
My theory has been, put it before the people, but, and if we put OPM on and the people in town don't want it, then we know it's dead in the water. I don't think we're a dictator, and that's my personal opinion. I know people feel we shouldn't be making, people should not be making decisions for the town. We are elected to do the will of the people and, what's best for the people. And sometimes you need to put it in front of the people, see what they feel. Because there are very, very strong feelings on both sides of this issue. And, being the chair, I like to walk right down the middle of the road. Because honestly, like I said, we're not a dictatorship. And if they say, you guys are nuts, but they've had the opportunity to, and I'm sure it'll be a hot button issue. I think Mr. Fear had a question or a comment.
Yeah, I just want to, I think one thing that we want to help us do is to find grants and find funding to do this. So whatever amount we take to the town meeting, whether that be, it will not be in November. I feel like it's far too soon, maybe May, who knows? Whatever number we ask from the town, we're going to try to get that as low as humanly possible through other sources of funding that we have access to as a nonprofit. So that's, we're on board to help out with this. We just,
Right. Dennis, logistically, is it reasonable to shoot for November knowing that the warrant is shutting soon? Or is it reasonable to get our ducks in a row, figure out, get the update in first week of September and then shoot for the May meeting?
You're definitely limited. I wouldn't say it's impossible to, let's be candid. We reach out to some, and we have an OPM working for us right now. It's a very, very good resource to help us get some information on what we're probably looking at or all. When we have an OPM, we have a couple of funding options that we can use, and one of them is fee not to exceed. So whatever money we appropriate at a town meeting, that's what we have to spend for the OPM. We won't break. The OPM has to understand that going into it. What I'm saying is I think we probably have enough resources around us to come up with that figure so that we could put it and say that this is enough to get the OPM on board to start working towards the next meeting where we're going after design and selection, hiring and going after bid documents and all that.
And add on to Dennis, it would be possible because again, with our existing relationship with an OPM, we already have some rough estimates on costs, you can identify that cost not to exceed and then a percentage of the product to allow for town meeting authorization for the OPM and some design work. Because just getting the OPM, you're still then waiting for design work at a subsequent town meeting, which if that's made, then essentially that will be a year from now before works get started. The other thing, and this was raised at previous meeting, we're talking about the structure. We're talking about preserving the structure. The use situation still needs to be dealt with. The board owns the property. To dispose of it, you still have to do a request for proposals, which is the formal process. To then do that, you can focus that down into a performing arts center. But there are ways around it if you're going to license, say, the use of a building. But to enter into a lease agreement, you have to follow procurement, and town meeting would have to authorize that. So there are some of those other steps that are associated with it. Just want to make sure that they're out there so that the board remains honest.
You had your hand up?
Through the chair, may I ask a question?
Excuse me, I didn't call on you. There's somebody in the room speaking.
Okay, I said, yeah, I can't hear. Sorry. No, that wasn't my question. I couldn't hear them speaking. That's all.
We were just curious what OPM.
Oldest president candidate.
Thank you.
Kathy, I know you can't hear. I don't know what to do. Thank you for whispering.
We have Christine Scott with comment and also
Unless you just pick, because I can't see a thing, so call on them, because apparently they can hear you.
Christine Scott, if you could unmute yourself and state the comments, or I can read them out of text, out of the chat.
Sure. Thank you. The comments I had during the test were, are there grants available for this work? And that was one of them. And then another one was basically saying, I can't hear things. And my parents, I could hear Catherine and Joe. So I'm just wondering if there are grants available, the ADA part.
So she was asking about ADA grants that would be available. The board may recall we have been successful in receiving funding through Mass Office of Disability. So that is something we could apply to. That won't open up until June timeframe. Working with Michael, and Michael has a list if you want to go over grants, but it also, to apply for a grant, you need a plan, and we need to identify what that plan ends up being, because we want to, if we're going to apply for grants, we want to be competitive. And really identify November,
if we can go to November and ask for an OPM and or some additional incremental design dollars so the OPM has some runway to run with before May, and that's fantastic. If we don't want to do that, that's okay, but that's my opinion.
I think we can put a placeholder on.
Okay.
Yes.
Man, I want to put Mr. Manager's just said.
I don't know what they want to do with this building. I look at that. We're going to spend, now we're talking 2.3 million. I don't know what we're spending it for. Perhaps this, I understand, I think this group just got a 501(c) designation. It'd be nice if they would put something out there to let the people know what we're getting to use with this building. I mean, yeah, it's a historic building. I'm 1.3 million, let it sit there.
We've been working with this group since the end of last year. They've presented, actually it was a year ago, I think maybe in August. And we've had several meetings with them in this room to talk about what their vision is, to talk about what they're doing, to guide them through their process. They have a full website. They have brochure they just shared with us with all the events on it and illustrating what types of activities they're doing, the numbers of people that are showing up. At our behest, they did all of this as part of a partnership that we said, hey, there's going to be a public and a private part of this partnership. We're going to work on getting the building ready for you. You work on building out your nonprofit. They have been working on that for over a year. They have members, they have a board, they're a 501c3. So to say that somehow that's this amorphous, vague thing is just inaccurate. You may not be aware of it, but it's out there.
Yes, there is that, but the ordinary guy in the street doesn't know it. That's my thing.
That's, of course they don't, that's right. That's what we're working on.
Just a question, am I correct in that the last town meeting, we voted on so much money for a feasibility study for the structure of that building?
We voted to paint it.
Well, I know, I want to know where that money is.
Yeah.
Well, it's still sitting there because it has lead and it can't
I
be.
voted to do a study.
Okay, Mike Antonellis, you have an answer?
Sorry, yeah, good to share, yeah.
Yes.
What the town voted on was an additional $9,000, which was dedicated to funding that presentation.
Yeah, that's what they just, and that was the feasibility study.
So now we want to go to the town and ask for an OPM or whatever. Are we going to let the town know at that time that the initial study came in at about 2.8 million?
I don't think we would. I mean,
We would take that whole presentation.
yeah. So the reason we would go to town meeting, somebody would make a presentation. Look, Holy Angels has been out there. Everybody's had questions for years. There's people on either side. And we have a feasibility study that has told us it's going to cost X. We're now looking, if the town feels like they should spend X, we need to hire an OPM to start the process. And then people also have to remember, although we have been talking, when the building is complete, the town votes on the use of that building, not the select board. There is nothing written in stone.
I was misunderstanding that, and you just going to go ask for an OPM and not.
No, there would be a criterion, or someone would come in and do a whole presentation on, this is what was found, so that people on both sides, because, you know, I'd love to think everybody's watching us, but I think I know better. You know, we have people in the room. They can't hear us anyhow, so it doesn't matter if they're watching us.
We have someone here that has a question.
Okay.
Would you support selling the building as is to a developer for $1, giving the developer tax breaks and helping finance the restoration of the building?
It is a good question. Well, just, I think, just in the context of the discussion, somebody apparently put their hand up and said, would you consider selling it to a developer, giving them a tax break for $1 and letting them run with it?
Technically, we've already inquired about that by going out twice for RFP for any proposals without a specific dollar amount or any specific use, including tearing down the building.
The reason we're here is because no developer wanted to get involved. That's why we're here.
Well, I think because of the cost, it's cost prohibitive. And when I heard how much it's gonna be, and now it's up to like, it could, I'm for public safety. And I would rather vote for a DPW that's gonna serve the town as a public safety building. Safety is the most important thing in this. And that's how I feel.
Mr. Rackett.
So if we hire an OPM, OPM does not do any design work.
Nope.
So nothing would get accomplished.
Correct. I just want to be clear. You say an OPM is some runway for a design.
Exactly. Welcome to municipal law.
And so the cost of doing that is going to be more than.
And that would be even better to ask the developer. And just
Natalie?
In the town meeting.
We can, but grants are never given. You know, it's like when the school put forth the roof. They said, we're hoping to get this grant, but you still have to budget for the real number and then keep your fingers crossed that the state comes through. Right. And we can say anything about Mike?
Just a quick thing is, you know, I like the old church, I was married there, stuff there, but I want to know from the finance committee what it's like where this falls at. Could it be just passing override from the school system, or could we have some policy for another override again, which means a permanent increase in our taxes? And we get a lot of capital projects, as really doing, and we have a lot of old. As well as a bunch of other stuff. And I've seen projects in town, for some reason or another, I have started. We've already talking down that some of the main on stuff that we've invested back into random stuff. That's money that almost hanging on the table. I want to know where in the pecking order of where this would fall into before I made a decision to go over $40 million. We've seen a bridge go from fence to the bridge side. So, original appropriation, the bridge was $500,000, now it's what, 1 point something? No, the original appropriation, the original request for the bridge was now it's like 1.7. But we don't know how where things go. Is as far as the financial stuff that's coming in. A lot of us here, stay here, we have people there, but we can't, because we'll be taxed out. Because of the folks of some things, but all for downtown, all that. The other thing you have to take into consideration is, anybody's been paying attention to the big project, that there's a big change coming to that area right there also. And I don't care how anybody paints a picture, there's no parking at. See what's happening with that. If anything is ever developed with Thompson Park, they're going to go to the parking lot. They're going to have this. A lot of nature is moving things and parks, but the first thing is I don't know where it falls into financial picture of the town. And knowing, we have to give the people all the stuff that we've got to do.
Right. Like I said, at this point, I think we're putting placeholders in because it's easier to remove than to add. And we need more. You weren't in the room, Mike. Man from Criterion is coming back with more numbers.
I need, there are wants, and there are needs.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
One thing I'll tell you, CPC goes to use on this initial drive. In terms of only section, CPC funds to fund.
Michael, is that something you could look into and give us a definitive answer at our next meeting? Because, you know, right now you're saying you think, but if we could have a definitive answer to that,
At this point, I'm fairly confident that it's also this today's talking about. I think I should bring that on all the issues we had.
Like I said, if both Michaels, if we can get that wrapped up and answered, you know, the board's been asking that for a while. What's out there? How on earth would we fund it? And I don't think we've received a definitive answer till tonight. And if you guys can look into it at our next meeting in September, because by then we'll have the hazardous waste, or, you know, I don't even know if that's what we should call it. We'll have a number for that. And so, you know, if we can look at funding sources that don't affect taxpayers, essentially.
CPC affects that.
It does.
3% of their tax bill. So it's all taxes.
Just
The higher taxes go, the higher the CPC goes.
CPC.
And that's been a lot of the increase in taxes for a few years. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. There's been lots of discussion internally about capital plan. In any capital plan that we've ever had since we started this way back in planning, what? This has never been on a capital plan. If you ever building tax.
Exactly. We need to
Will be next. Oh, you were okay.
Later. Hey, Julie. So now, discussion of potential articles for special town meeting. View of revisions to draft of Drake break.
In the board's packet is language that was modified as a result of the last discussion that the board held to read the review from town council. The proposed bylaw is basically fine. I'm a little concerned that the bylaw might impinge on state sovereignty. Really is referring to 140 that such a bylaw would probably be flagged by the Attorney General, saying that it would apply to 140. But that's also something that we had already discussed.
Right, because that's the issue where people are complaining of Drake breaks is one piece, and if the state road can't control it, then to me it becomes a moot point, because as we heard, the DPW needs their Jake brakes, so we're not spending $1 million on brakes on their trucks. I assume the fire department, they also move large trucks. You know.
He had continued saying, I see the carve out for chapter 90, but maybe changes the language to apply solely to roads managed and regulated by the town. So basically, if we forgot about 140 and said this would apply to other areas, we could specify that. He said that that would be a way to address any state issues.
Maybe we should.
Does that affect federal funding for the highways?
It's having
projects in federal funding.
Right, but the jurisdiction as far as having the use of engine compression brakes being prohibited, applying to local roads, that doesn't impact funding. If there's a question, say, on High Street, Hartford Ave North, that then those were federal funds, if they would be an impact, we can always ask town council. There are many other towns that have adopted this type of bylaw, such as in Holliston, that apply to lot of roads. Some of them are state routes as well. And we can always ask for clarification if that has an impingement. But I think the chair had also identified one of the main routes where we get complaints is going to be on the state that we have to put signs in the right of way. And if they say no, we can't put it in the right of way for the state.
And if the AG is going to flag our bylaw, that's where we're getting the complaints, is 140, right in the center of West Upton. So, to me, it's truly an issue that it's going to be a moot point. It doesn't make sense to move forward because, like I said, in other areas of town, I don't think I want somebody complaining that the highway department was going down, say, I don't know, Chestnut Street, and they needed their Jake brake. Jake brakes are on vehicles for a reason, as Dennis and Bill said last time, the brakes are incredibly expensive. So we're not getting complaints on Chestnut. We're not getting complaints on Grove. We're getting complaints in the center of West Upton where it's not going to be feasible. Yes, Steve.
I just recently saw this article, and I will tell you, we have hundreds of very high hazard travel going in and out of West Upton area. You're able to train, I'm talking trucks. Large trucks, tanker trucks, I recently went to the state one-on-one about the trucks trying to turn right on Gable Ave. It's already getting today. You've got plenty of right. You want those tankers and those trucks to have all the brakes they can. So they need them not only in West Upton Center, but they need them on the road, and all the other roads. If you got trucks on gravel or regular nuisance trucks, if they in the community, you're going to say we're not going to allow the use of that stuff there. We have a lot of high hazard stuff going in and out every day. And what's up in the area and in and out of our community. And that includes stuff that's just what we're doing. So I think the town really needs to think about it. They're going to do that.
That's great.
I think if it's something that's in front of your house, it's a really big problem. And I think if it's not, one of the biggest areas of this problem is on 140 in the second center. And it doesn't seem like we have, it's like, even if we asked to put a sign there, there's a good chance that the city's gonna be like, no, you can't put that sign up because it's city road, and we're not banning Jake brakes, because then we're doing that in every community across the Commonwealth. So I don't see us being able to put the signs there. The question is there any advantage to us putting signs in other parts of the community? I don't know where in town this is an issue, so it's hard for me to say, so I guess my take is understanding the limitations. If there's still some small incremental benefit for some residents that live in town to have a better quality of life because there's no Jake braking, and we can do that as a board or have the town vote on it in November, that would be great. But I think we have to recognize what we're not doing, which is sort of the primary source of the problem.
The primary source of the problem, and as Chief just said, I don't want a young driver coming in with a hazardous load, seeing no Jake brake, and being afraid of $100 fine, or thinking it's his license and causing a hazardous waste spill. I'll take the 2 to 5 seconds of noise over health and safety. And that seems to be what Chief is telling us, that where it's being complained about, it's truly needed. I don't think all of us were aware that there's very hazardous trucks going in and out of the rail yard on a regular basis. They're saying nothing of the people passing through that are stuck.
Is there an issue in some of the things, right? Like, the implication is that trucks can't can't slow down if they're not using a Jake brake because their regular brake don't work as well as a Jake brake. Is that true, or can they just use their regular brakes? They just have to push a little bit harder.
They can use their regular brakes.
It's off their load.
But it's gonna wear the brakes out 10 times faster.
It's not necessarily a driving hazard. It's more that they.
I will tell you that if you're in a large truck, a heavy haul, they'll pull load on the back.
Yeah.
Your regular brakes don't slow the truck down. It's steadily and under control like your Jake brake.
Yes. So you
If
have to
you're
really
just
be mindful
relying on
of
the tire, the rubber tire contact with where you're using the weight of the truck and the engine exhaust, slow the whole unit down.
And that's where you see those big, long, black stretch marks where the trucks are just locked up and they're just.
Yeah.
So we're putting tankers we have going in and out of there are unbalanced. If anybody knows what that means is able to stop. They're not totally pulled to the top, the load shifts to the front.
Yeah.
And, it's not good. It's like a truck on August when you
And is every instance of Jake braking make that noise?
They all use the same principle. They use the exhaust of the engine. They actually slow the engine down, the engine itself, almost like starting it for people that wants to die out on the whole truck, wants to fall. That's what the equipment that you see on the road today that's 10 years old, is you don't notice it. It sounds like the engine running down. Yeah, but the older trucks from the 70s and even the 80s, much louder.
40, 50 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know in 5 years, since they're 2 years. I mean,
Those trucks are still out there.
they are. That's true. Well, my theory is, from what I've heard from Joe reading council's response, is we're going to go through a lot of trouble for no benefit. Yep.
There's no teeth for the law.
Board doesn't have to, it's written so that if at some point in the future you want to revisit.
We could. Because, and the flip side of that too is, by the time somebody hears the Jake brake and calls, and they arrive, they're in Hopkinton or Framingham. Yeah, Chief, am I correct? And I think that's what Chief Palmieri told us when he was in last time, is in his survey of the surrounding towns, it's unenforceable. It's nice to have a sign, but it's not going to work. So to me, to put something out to the people and spend time at town meeting on something that really truly is a moot point, because anybody who gets written up is going to say it was an emergency. A ball ran in front of me. And who's to say it didn't? You know, I was worried there was a child following the ball. So.
One thing that we were talking about, how often the next town and the country setting and how to do it. Matter of fact, is we have a situation where 25 million lives, and you can't ignore that. What goes in and out of it. So, it's an issue. So,
All right, personally, I don't know what the board wants to do, but you know how I feel.
You know how I feel. I don't wanna.
I think
they should share and explain the issues and the pros and the cons to the people that are concerned about it.
Exactly.
And we heard from our attorneys, we heard from our fire chief, we heard from taking a lot of input from the experts, and this is where we landed.
Sounds like a plan to me. Okay, on to the home rule petition to extend Upton Fire Chief retirement age. Chief and Chief.
Chief,
take a break.
It's not in his DNA.
He is going out with his boots on in about 100 years.
So if you recall, we talked about rendition plans. So we drafted sample article, similar to all be able to extend the service beyond 65. In Massachusetts, the mandatory retirement age for police are 65, but it can be extended. So that's what we've done. The first step is to get the power warrant.
And when we extended that too, is there sort of a time or just sort of that yourself as the door for as long as it's
Typically, it's extended out to age 70. But that doesn't mean that the town needs to keep that person employed to the 70. There's still contracts that come in between and other issues that takes. But you have the ability to.
Questions, comments? That one's a keeper.
we couldn't be more privileged. We're so fortunate in this community to have.
Appreciate it, yes, that will stay
I
on.
also knew that, but appreciate
We're trying to do this ahead of time.
Yes.
Because no one has the same rules.
Yes.
And if there's any issues of language, that's why we chose this town similar to Alton and basically it's you know it's just they had to put one on and kick back so the version we would have some time.
That was great. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. No. Yeah. No. Thank you. Other potential articles and topics.
So far, and just put it up on screen for people to see it that are watching the meeting, but I'll read it out loud. Current list is 14, 13, but they're by law. Amendment to annual town operating budget. This is just a list that prior year bills, if any. We haven't heard from any departments that there are prior year bills. Funding for the design and bid documents for Department of Public Works expansion and renovation. Funding for Holy Angel stabilization project. While I have design bids construction, I'll change that to the OPM and then some for design. The board already reviewed language for acceptance of general laws, chapter 59, section 5, clause 22J of the HERO Act. Home rule petition, we just heard from the fire chief. We have the article for acquisition of 12B Milford and 0 Milford. This will be placeholder language. Once I sign a contract with the appraisal company, the turnaround is within 30 days. That will be before the end of September. Final language just needs to be adopted the first week of October, so it's going to be tight, but you'll have a value, and then the process would be to provide an offer. They accept, great, you're going to town meeting. You don't, you end up passing over the article or not putting it on because you can't do it. We have Board of Health working on dog bylaw amendments. The police department is requesting a comfort dog revolving account. We're reviewing this with town council and the finance director to determine if this is the best mechanism for allowing for those donations and for expenses out of that account. Dennis talked about the town hall exterior renovation. Dennis, also, we had pulled this back in the fall, we revised estimate numbers for repairing the drain at the fire station. And then there's 2 CPC articles that are currently being discussed. One at the request of the Historical Commission for preservation activities at First Cemetery, and the second requested by the Cemetery Commission for restoration of cemetery gravestones. Did CPC have any other articles besides those 2?
Yeah, there is,
No.
Do that.
So let me ask you, if CPC says funds could be used for Holy Angels, would that be another one?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Joe, we need to add Board of Health is working on a noise bylaw.
Is that as a general bylaw?
I believe so, because otherwise it's unfeasible. I mean, we're in planning stages and don't know if we'll make it, but we should put, because it will need to be reviewed by council, but we have gotten a lot of noise complaints, and if we don't make it here, we can pull it and make it in May.
And specifically, this is sort of follow-up from annual town meeting where there was originally discussion about can some of the athletic field work be funded through CPC under the recreational bucket. So it sounds like they're having continued discussions. That's everything that's on our radar. I've asked staff to provide a list of capital. Right now, nothing has come in as far as capital articles. As you know, in the past, we've done some DPW fire vehicles. We already had annual, took care of the ambulance, so that was all set. DPW's been, has seen a lot of support by the board and town meeting over the last couple of years for their vehicles, so nothing is proposed for this town meeting that I'm aware of.
Michael.
We're very patient team on this. I'm going to talk to CPC on Thursday and then share. Essentially introducing the same article. Yeah, well, this is dozens and sort of capabilities to help for manufacturing, in our case, light manufacturing, biology. So I want to be easy to, and it's very preliminary, kind of series of many appetite on behalf of these categories. Right now. An appetite for introducing light manufacturing as an option for special permanent and general businesses. Or it's better to create new zoning specifically for breweries in town, which is we don't have now with no programs. Except for obviously what we use across the street with a special permit with also mixed use provision there. So again, very preliminary, but it's not mentioned in the case measures for folks that are okay. So all these not very much.
That's right. And the warrant closes when?
September 5th.
Okay, because I'd rather throw that on the warrant and pull it than, like I said, it's easier to pull than to add.
Yeah, I mean, especially during the month of September, the board is able to open up the warrant on its own motion to insert an article if something came up. So you do have flexibility. But I can work with Mike on having at least one language for that.
Good with the warrant? Okay, the call for a request for beautification funds for landscaping at the Upton Community Center.
So in the board's packet, we provided the results from the quotes, and they're a little higher than what I had hoped for. The lowest bid came in at $22,000. This is basically for for 18 months worth of work, year and a half. I indicated when bringing this along with DPW Director Dennis Westgate before the board at a previous meeting that before execution of any contract was going to bring in, let the board know about the dollar amount. Because it's a little higher than what anticipated, wanted to bring that back to the board, have a discussion either to go ahead as the votes came in for that work, or to consider maybe other options for, say, a one-time cleanup effort just to get things looking good as soon as possible. So this is also here.
I know, Mr. Flaherty just left the room. This is one of his favorite issues because he said over and over and over again to the architect, who is going to take care of this? And I took a good look the other day. You can't tell the flowers from the weeds. I'm pretty good with my gardening. I'm wondering what it would take to just simplify everything. I mean, we've got some pretty crazy plants in there. They're huge. They don't fit. Doesn't look good. It's overgrown. But I don't think the town should be spending large amounts of money 4 times a year to maintain something that people, like I said, nobody really looks at Holy Angels because it's always been there. I think everybody walking in the community center goes, wow, somebody needs to weed that. But I also think if we ripped a lot of it out, threw some mulch and some daffodils, people would think, oh, doesn't that look nice? And I have a garden, but, so I'll defer to the board, but I wonder if we can get someone in to take a good look at what we've got, what it should be. I don't know. Comments?
Well, would they have to rip everything out first and then replant everything, or?
And they're about to go to seed, so they're going to be back.
Yeah. Visualize what the weeds are just got out there for most part. Once the beds get needed, they're going to look a lot better, but you will find that they're probably overgrown from the original plantings. You could use something about that.
Can they tell the difference between?
Oh, absolutely. My staff absolutely can. My staff knows the problem is I don't have staff to be able to maintain that. And there's a couple of things that bounced off my head with this. Maybe there's a couple of different approaches there. It's a lot of money when you look at those quotes. Maybe it's a combination of, I don't know. The initial one, when you look at the 2 quotes, the heavy lifting is the very first one. That's where all the work is. You have to go in there and you have to weed all those beds. And then you've got to basically loosen up the soils and remove a bunch, add new mulch and make it look like it's supposed to look again. So there's your big cost. If you look at the remaining costs after that, where they talk about the periodic maintenance that they do, not a lot of money for the amount of visits. It's that first one that really counts. I know that my staff could do that work for a lot cheaper than that on overtime. The problem is the funding source that we have been kicking around for doing beautification won't pay for my staff's overtime. So it's not an option. So thinking, we continue thinking, you could bring in the low bidder for the first part of it. I forgot what that was, Joe, you have it. It was, no, the first part,
Just like a weed?
6,900, something like that.
The big cleanup.
Yeah, big cleanup and have them come in and put it back to what it's supposed to look like. And then from there, we could talk about possibly finding funding to do some periodic overtime. My staff to go in, it will be considerably cheaper than the 2 quotes you have.
And I know too, when we first came across this, we know the need right now, I think, is urgent. It needs to be cleaned up. We have a beautiful building that looks ridiculous. But I also said, there may be groups of seniors or retired people that like to garden. Because I know people, you know, and maybe we can get some type of gardening program together and let them weed.
I do accept it's not something that you can count on in perpetuity.
That's true.
I'm always thinking about long term. Because the Mexico do a fantastic job of finding it difficult to do their water.
But no, I mean, if we can get the, to me, if it's 6,900 to get the first big one done and whatever the number is, it's better than 22 or 32. If we could get that done, and then, as you said, then we have time because everything's going to die come November, October, depends. We have time to see if we can source overtime for DPW.
Something we could certainly figure out about how much overtime in a year would take. And then that number could be considered. The board decides it has merit, wants to go forward with it, and it's a much better option, both financially and for longevity, and we just put it in a line item somewhere so that we have it. I simply need a funding mechanism. Paying my staff, and it wouldn't be all my staff, it's only going to be, most of it will be done by 1 or 2 people. The first one, if we had to do this part of it, it would be quite a few people to make light of that work. And, the rest of it is not very heavy lifting. By doing the overtime, you're essentially giving me more staff without giving me more staff and paying benefits. So it comes out to.
And then I would take it from there, I mean, remove those grasses and the things that overgrow terribly. Plants and mosses. Little shrubs, easy to trim.
I think, like I said, it's not a stuff I can't get on. And some of it's as tall as
Some of the landscape, it's fantastic, it's absolutely gorgeous, but it was designed to have regular maintenance on it. When I say regular, I don't mean once a month.
Regular maintenance in the yard.
So, do we make a motion to, is there a quote somewhere that gives us the lowest and that gives us just the initial cleanup that we could make a motion to? And if not, should we do an up to amount?
Right.
You know, and at least get us, because it needs to be done. It's embarrassing.
Do you remember where these are on the server?
That's the quotes that.
Are the contractors willing to just do that? If they sort of bid a whole thing, so.
I kind of think they will be.
Yeah.
And so they're both local people, so, both, and then if we did,
10,000.
put that,
Well, that's from the cover, it's not that much. I mean,
Right.
I just don't, I'm sorry, I don't recall the exact.
no, but if we made a motion to do. Yeah, sure.
The select board vote pursuant to authorize the town manager to execute necessary contract document with the work to be funded out of the Ristine Debeautification Fund as presented and not to exceed $10,000.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
You know, it's been going now.
Right.
Then, if in another year we're looking at it and saying, hey, we need to make some major changes.
Or if we need to look at,
Yeah.
these things grow. I didn't realize when I bought a house with wisteria, it can grow up to 30 feet.
Oh,
Yes.
My wife and I have had a 22-year-long debate about wisteria. And I'm like,
Wrought iron. It's horrible. It's invasive. I can find I weed and I go out the next weekend and it's almost as big as me and nothing kills it. It's horrible. So
before the board moves off this, I found estimate from the lowest bidder, and they estimated 12,200. We can take the board's 10,000 and basically negotiate with them just to get it done for 10,000.
That was the initial?
Yep, initial weed trim, edge, mulch, entire area as needed.
I tend to think they're not gonna come down because they're not getting the whole package.
Can I make another motion? Yes, I can make a second motion. Make another motion.
That works too.
How do you amend it?
Sue, what are we supposed to do? Okay. We have to say words.
12,200 is my
Beautiful. Unanimous. Get it done. Procedure followed. Okay, next, discussion of Route 140 tip project, proposed parking lot and scheduling of public forum.
So this is fun. In the board's packet, not only provided a link to the whole plan set, but then I did a excerpt of what is the most important area, really the downtown area. And within that is a blow up showing what MassDOT came back with a proposed parking lot adjacent to and they're interested in the town's feedback. So I don't want to influence the board's thoughts on this. This is not exactly what I was picturing and larger than what I was anticipating.
Let me see if I understand this. Are we entering from Grove Street or one?
You're coming off of Main Street, 140.
Okay, and we're adding.
8 parking spaces.
Okay.
They are including handicap parking spaces.
Yes.
I'm it's up on the screen as well. So yes, the plan identifies 6 regular parking spaces and 2 handicap accessible spaces. The area would occupy the whole lawn to the west of the Racine building and getting pretty close to that retaining wall for the Grove Street parking.
Does it say how wide this lot is? So essentially, they're using the old telephone. Is there a dimension anywhere that I'm not seeing that says that lot is X feet wide? Because I know I drive 2 vehicles. One, there are parking lots I cannot get in and out with the pickup truck, or I prefer to back in because it's so short, nobody else can get out around me. And so I don't see any dimensions on this. And my fear is there's one way in, one way out. I mean, I thought when we were talking about this.
Hey, where they're suggesting we.
I know, I think we could do a better job than I do. You know, but looking at this, I honestly thought the parking should have flowed into the old library in Steam and would have added spots. Yeah, not come in from 140. Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't tell, because I haven't really looked at this notice, so where you see those 1, 2, 3, 4 spots, that's probably a retaining wall on them.
It's 6 or 8 feet high.
You're just standing in the mosquito parking lot, there's 7 on your left. And you're looking at the front lawn, that's up here.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about.
Okay. Dennis, what's your opinion of this?
I had a brief conversation with them, the town manager did. They don't want to pay for this. They hinted that there may be some funding help from them if we keep it from being bituminous, in other words, we process gravel, or we don't put full drainage in and make it impervious with asphalt, but there's no, so.
And then where are we with ADA if it's?
Only
What do you think of the setup? Does the design need, knowing what you know about streets and roads? And all I know nothing about.
it seems like aesthetically, I can't see how that's going to be very pleasing. It also seems like an awful lot intrusion to that area for that little bit of parking. It's not a lot of parking.
You like that, four spaces in the front there?
Yeah.
How are you gonna get out?
Well, that's what I said.
If somebody's in
You don't have. So the van spot, the lower van spot, if we call it that, if somebody's truly handicapped and they pull in, it looks to me like they're right on top of a retaining wall. So can they even get out of their van? I just don't want a repeat of let's restripe and restripe. And you're right, Denise, it's a lot of intrusion for not a lot of gain. I mean,
8 spots. How long do you think it would be used?
and I don't see how you get in or out because now you're coming into the roundabout. People are coming out of the roundabout.
There's 2 spots on the right when you pull in. You're going to be able to back out towards those 4 spots and then drive straight out. It's those 4 spots that are down towards the heating parking lot. I can see if that is a full parking lot, they have no chance of turning around in that parking lot.
No, they don't. And then the bottom line is, and I don't know if you end up with any liability, but if there's a 3-foot retaining wall and somebody pulls in, and then they decide they're going to restrooms, are they jumping down it? Is it our responsibility that they got hurt? They jumped off of it? Or they driven off of it. There was just something on the news, somebody went right into the. I think it's gonna be a lot. I think we could do better. Somehow.
I think we have them do the curb cut, say thank you very much, and call it a day. Then we can make it whatever we want.
Especially.
But like, you have the flexibility of the curb cuts there. You can do what you want with it in 5 years or 10 years or whatever. Because the other thing is, one of the reasons we were so sensitized to creating this additional parking was because we were concerned about the businesses there. And we may find after a year or 2 that the businesses are doing just fine because people still park in front of the businesses when they do today, and they haven't been adversely affected. After a year, you say, oh my gosh, I've lost 40% of my customers because they have nowhere to park. And we can say, all right, you know what, let's put in some.
And we can leave that with the curb cut, we can leave it grass, and then we can always put picnic table, which would aid the businesses downtown. Hey, I like this idea. Give us a curb cut. Yep. Thanks. No thanks. See you later. Bye bye. Do we need to discuss anything else, Joe?
The other thing is that end of September, beginning of October is going to be here before we know it. the state has identified, has stated they're willing to participate. They ask that it not be sooner than the end of September, beginning of October. But this is the town's process. This doesn't require a public hearing for them. They're going to still be proceeding. The risk by delaying it, say, January 2026, is that they're going to still start designing things. So we need to, as a town, identify, and do we want to schedule a public forum? We're approaching 30 days out. So we want to make sure we're able to get enough notice out to the public. Their engineers, they'll allow them to participate, MassDOT officials, but it would be technically our meeting to coordinate.
We haven't had any meetings.
That's 25%.
So I think we need a meeting, and the public needs to know what's happening.
We just have no idea.
They can't hear us.
So for the board's upcoming schedule, you already have meetings scheduled September 23rd, and then October 7th. So there's actually 5 Tuesdays in, so you could squeeze it in on the 30th, or you're looking early October. And you're running into the timeline for executing the warrant, which that timeframe is second.
I think 9:30 makes sense, because before you know it, everybody working those days, and it's always around 15th, and people are gone. That would be
I'll throw that date at them. They said end of September, beginning of October. So if we can lock in that being a 5th date, there shouldn't be any sort of typical board meetings that are scheduled for that night. Good for me.
Works for me. Okay. I didn't realize I did that. Oh, Lord, you're not gonna get in like. All right, so next is review and approval of personnel policy and procedure manual amendments.
So we have Sandra Hack, my HR director, with us, and there's a number of things that have been worked on over the last year. Some of which, were anything that's dealing with non-union employees. You want to wait for union contracts to be finalized. We finalized fire back in the April timeframe. So there's a number of things that personnel board and HR have been working on to address, and say request for additional flexibility and with existing employees, and to remain on track with the board's goal of being a good place to work and retaining employees and giving them flexibility. So any amendments to the personnel policy and procedures manual, while the personnel board takes some first action, the adoption is up to the board. No, I don't believe town council has reviewed this language.
Generally, we do send it to town council for the board will pass the seats on for town policy, basically that is the state's policy. It's very close, but again, town council always will review just like we did the whole document in 2016.
Can I ask, I've been self-employed my whole life. What is compensatory tonight? Difference between, what's the definition of that?
It's, employees are additional classifications, one is the exemption employee, which is instead of overtime, so there's an overtime paid per person.
It's like a salary. Right.
Salary position sometimes we can look at that.
Okay.
For instance, the police officer, salary position, but it's still one that's. You still receive overtime. This is the classification of exempt or non-exempt. And there's different qualifications in it needs to meet certain criteria to be an exempt employee.
Like a professional and all that.
Yeah, professional, yes.
Right. I mean, they become exempt.
Exempt, yes. And then non-exempt employees are not exempt from overtime. And annual policies includes defines the exempt and non-exempt. Give the definition of exempt employee and the top of the definition of
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more, it's just like any time. We have a flat rate for our attorneys. We're going to be talking about a few other things. I'd like to get their opinion on this because obviously I don't understand. I don't feel, I don't know what the old policies were. They're not in here.
there was
Nothing.
And basically, we looked at it because, for instance, and we pick on the ES director. Let's say she has a fair that she has to attend Friday and Saturday. Those are not her regular work hours and days. So we would say compensate her for those hours, take off Tuesday and Wednesday instead. It's just a change in the schedule, being allowed for that contact. Because an exempt employee, it doesn't matter if you work 30 hours or 80 hours, you're expected to do your job. Whatever time it takes to do your job.
Now, can they bank the compensatory time?
In this policy, yes. There's a banking for a short time, for a very, defined period.
I think this is just another example of it's like, I view it as this long arc of a journey we've been on around sort of professionalizing all things in local government over the past several years. And having a professional HR director full-time has created the ability and the capacity to create policies and procedures where we're lacking. And so this is an example of that where we haven't had this in place, and it's sort of good housekeeping to have it. And so this is a good, I read through it. What's in here I'm certainly comfortable with. I agree, obviously, council needs to look at it, of course, but certainly from what I'm reading and looking at it, it looked fine.
So the process, because like I said, I'll admit to the things I don't know. Being self-employed, never even did a job interview. 51 years old, never been on a job interview. Nope, they've always chased me.
Lots of times policies are going to be a question.
Right.
A question. Can I start calling an employee? How can I make my sick time? Do I have to be sick or can I take my child to the doctor?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have it written. Yeah. Our practice has been, of course, you can take your child to the doctor, but it's not written and defined. So it just helps people have a better understanding of what our practice is, put it in writing so everybody has clear expectations of what is good and bad. And again, the use of the sick leave policy really mirrors the states. It's a cut and paste.
So procedurally, if we were to say, okay, we like this, it goes to town council for review, and town council will come back to us and say, would you come back to the board, or would you go back to you and say, what about this, this, and this?
They would just say, add a period here, a comma here, and take out a may and a might. That's basically what they did with the whole personnel policy procedure. They would make recommendations. If there were large changes, I would come back to the board and say, hey, we can't really do this. I'm confident in what we've written, that we're real. But I would like definitely for my council to review, to read it.
So on the compensatory time, how much can they accrue?
On which non-exempt or exempt here?
Non-exempt.
On a non-exempt, the procedure, the compensatory time is within a work week will not be counted towards time work and completing overtime hours. It's not considered time work. And that's an important term, time work. The policy, commensurate time must be used within 3 work months of a project's completion. If it is not used within this period, the time will be cashed out. Because you have to pay people for your hours for a non-exempt employee. It's different for an exempt employee, you don't cash it out, they have to use it.
So instead of taking overtime, they can take a time and a half on compensatory.
On this policy, it's hour to hour. Compensatory time is hour to hour. And the maximum accrual of compensatory time is 40 hours at any given time. So you can't just, keep getting compensatory time. And you can't just use it because you can't finish your work in work day. It's because you have a special project that you're working on and things like that. Or that you're at a night meeting versus your regular work hours.
Yeah. I guess the compensatory time, different thing, updated. A lot of for an example, a lot of the snow plowers, instead of getting paid for overtime, it's a time and a half.
That's a union contract, that's something totally different.
No, but I mean compensatory time, it has to define.
But it's a union contract, so it's really different.
That was.
Yes.
But even here, you have to, you should be defining, you're saying that 40 hours?
Here it's stating,
Can they bank or not bank the compensatory time?
for non-exempt employees, they can bank up to 40 hours.
If I can, maybe this will help. So it is different with a contract, but I'll give you an example of what the DPW has. And every town that I've been in utilizes compensatory time. I don't know any that doesn't. But here, we're talking about hourly employees. So it's in lieu of overtime, which means that every hour of overtime that they will get paid, they can take an hour and a half of compensatory time. This is 1.5 times the amount of hours, because it's at an overtime. Don't allow compensatory time for snow and ice, because that is a different funding source. And the state law requires that by the end of the fiscal year, they have to pay them out one way or another for their time. In other words, if they didn't take it, if they accrued 10 hours of compensatory time, and then they didn't take it, they come to the end of June, before July 1 rolls, they're going to cash them out and pay them. We closed snow and ice long before that, so we don't allow that. So, and we put a cap on how many they can accrue. They can bank up to so many. They can't carry it for a year. They have to use that time off within that given year. So that's, like Sandy said, that's a union contract. It's following some of the similar principles. Just for personnel. The personnel bylaws always seem to be behind the union. They're always trying to catch up.
And that brings us to the fourth policy, which, the vacation matters, the union policy. Where we had, just added some language to vacation, and, vacation leave, I use earned vacation time, termination. In the new DPW contract, I already know, so the fire contract, they have this, language, as well. So again, we're kind of trying to narrow, if we don't want them to get any more than we have, and, just trying to keep everybody competitive on the same.
So most towns have, through the chair, have sick time and family sick time. Sick time is for yourself when you're sick. Family sick time is when your little one's sick, and either mom or dad, one of you gonna take a day out of work.
That's like personal time off.
Well, there's personal time, a little different, but the family sick is generally on that, just about.
If you're mirroring contracts. I am way out of my wheel because it's not something I'm familiar
I
with.
think it wouldn't hurt. Have them
Yeah, because honestly, I saw this and I read this morning, and I am just. And it's 9:07 and the brain is going, I just don't.
I mean, if you look at an exempt employee, you're exempt from overtime.
Right.
If you look at a non-exempt employee, they're not exempt from overtime. It's really that simple, but then we're just adding a lot to it.
So is there any harm in taking this to our next meeting and me calling the attorney and saying, okay, I need a. I was gonna say, personal policy for dummies because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't understand it. And then. And then it'll be a final, and it could be done all at once. Okay. If you guys are good, Laura, you're all about this. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Right. So thank you for staying.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna have a couple more too, so.
Okay.
Give what you asked for.
Okay. So project updates and discussion of future meeting topics.
Part of this is for also then the interim. This is draft. I don't have draft.
I'm like, Dennis is going nowhere.
I didn't think he had paper that big when he handed it to us. Yep.
My monitor around.
Hey, you didn't have the paper. Maybe Joe went out and got the big paper. I could barely read it. Okay.
So, this is a work in progress. I am adding, to do the brain dump of all the things to really give a accurate snapshot of the various projects and efforts that are going on in town. We have a lot of facility stuff going on from Holy Angels, which we just discussed. DPW, we have the effort for the retaining wall at Kiwanis that Mike Antonellis is coordinating with Maria and RecCom. We have things that we still need to figure out as far as the existing structures at Trask. So want to give you a copy. You will, as well as other department heads and of course Dennis, get more of a final tracking. But wanted to sort of give you this so that can identify all the stuff that is going on. And the intent is to make sure that Dennis knew where things were, but also for when you do bring on a permanent town manager, it will give them a snapshot as well. And because many of these have our coordinated efforts with other department heads, planning, police, fire, they're all going to get a copy of this as well because it is a team effort around here to keep these projects going. It doesn't just rest in the town manager's office. So between the board, departments, and staff, it's really capture all of what is going on and making sure that things don't get dropped in the transition. So if there's anything on here, you have 2.5 days to let me know to be added on, or you can on a sheet of paper the size of this table. So this is, of course, a living document.
You're so sharp.
Meeting minutes? Everybody have a, I didn't read those either. I just, you don't mind.
That meeting's getting longer and longer. And, are we done?
Yeah. Executive session, I expect it will be 5 minutes. Then you can vote in.
Okay. That's the best.
Get an updated one.
I was gonna give you this one. I know it'll change.
Okay, I don't know where the motion is for the executive. I think I downloaded the,
Have it, Maureen?
Maureen has it. Okay, bring us into.
Nine A, I have.
9A. I move that the select board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to general law, chapter A, section 21A, a strategy with respect to litigation. Of the public. So declare.
Do I hear a second to the motion? That a motion? Okay. I so declare. Do we do it? All vote.
Aye.
Laura had no. We're back in open session at 9:18 p.m.
I move that the select board vote to authorize the town manager to execute documents associated with opting into new national opioid settlements as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay, go for
I
it.
move that we adjourn meeting of August 26, 2025 at 9:19.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous? Meeting adjourned.